Mayday, mayday here. 72, we have smoke in the cabin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Galactic Terrors, the online reading series that scours the known universe for scary stories, strange tales, weird horror, dark humor, and all sorts of literary oddities and grotesqueries from the weirdest, wildest, most imaginative authors writing in a variety of fascinating genres. Tonight's guests are all contributors to Dark Spores, Stories We Tell After Midnight, Volume 4. LYNNE HANSEN, who did the glorious cover, plus authors RICK CLAYPOOL, TEEL JAMES GLENN, Lee Murray, and James Chambers. And welcome to my co-host, Rachel A. BRUNE, the co-editor of Dark Spores and the publisher of Hippocampus Press. Rachel, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. I'm Rachel A. BRUNE. Like Carol said, I am the founder of Hippocampus Press, and with her, actually, this is the second time that we have co-edited an anthology. We've worked together before on A Woman Unbecoming, and I just love working with Carol. We also have Raven, who works at Chrome Girls with us, and together we publish horror. We publish horror short stories and anthologies, our signature series of which is, of course, Stories We Tell After Midnight.
Yes, and this is number 4 in the series. This is the first themed one, but we'll come back and talk about that a little bit. And I myself, folks have seen me on the show before, usually as one of the hosts, and I am a Bram Stoker Award nominated author and editor of short stories and novella and anthologies. I basically like to concentrate on, strange tales that touch your heart, twisted things. And so that's kind of my forte. And I'm also the co-chair of the New York chapter, and I work with Jim Chambers, who is usually one of our hosts, but I'm really excited that we have Jim on as a guest tonight. So that's going to be kind of fun, Well, listen, what we usually do to start is we do just a couple of announcements of things that are coming up. So let me just hit those real quick. Everybody mark your calendar if you're in the New York area for the Long Island Convention of Horror. It's coming up this weekend from February 28th to March 2nd in Hauppauge, New York. And many of the HWA New York members will be participating in the convention. And just a few months later, HWA's annual convention, StokerCon, is coming up in Stamford, Connecticut from June 12th through the 15th. And you can find out more information there at stokercon2025.com. Also, if you're interested in finding out more about our events going forward, we do our regular shows every second Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And you can watch them live at that time or also on our YouTube channel called Galactic Terrors. But please sign up for our Galactic Terrors newsletter to stay up to date on upcoming shows. We'll put that link in the chat in just a second. But I think it might be kind of fun since we have all these authors who are waiting to hear. Why don't we get into a little bit about the Dark Spores anthology? We've got our trailer video that we can show you. It would be kind of cool.
The mushroom spreads its filaments through the darkness of its host, invading the rich and fertile ground of your imagination. Join us for Dark Spores, Stories We Tell After Midnight 4, as masterful authors take you on a journey through the shadows.
It took you right into the shadows, Rachel. Oh, no. Well, this was a fun anthology. It's basically mushroom horror, fungus horror. what are some of your thoughts and recollections about what got us going on this?
I think that I think you had attended a panel at one of the cons that we had gone to on sporror, sporror, and you were like, this was really cool. And we just really, we had a couple of conversations where we really started thinking about the general possibilities for creepiness surrounding mushrooms and spores and mold and mildew and all of those sorts of things.
Yes, and so many things in the media have been fascinating. Silvia Moreno Garcia did her Mexican Gothic, which was one of the things that really kicked spores and mushrooms into the public consciousness. And Nick Kaufman, one of our friends, has had really exciting, creepy, wonderful mushrooms in one of his books as well. So he's one of the authors that we invited in. But also, I'm pretty keen that I got to meet Rick Claypool at one of these events, and he's actually a mushroom forager himself. He knows a little bit about this stuff. So we invited him to do a story because his stuff is so great. And he's going to read a little bit for us tonight, which is cool. But one of the things that we did that was really significant to me, one of my favorite horror artists is LYNNE HANSEN. And I know a number of people who feel it's a bucket list item to have a LYNNE HANSEN cover on their book, so people look forward to that. And there's times when I will buy a book just because it has a LYNNE HANSEN cover on it, and as opposed to getting an ebook or whatever. I want to hold it. I want to look at it. I want to, get close to it. So we have worked with Lynn before for some of our other books and covers. And so we said, let's talk to Lynn. So why don't we do our little video to introduce her and then have her come on with us? Lynne Hansen is a horror artist who specializes in book covers. She loves creating art that tells a story and that helps connect publishers, authors, and readers. Her art has appeared on the cover of the legendary Weird Tales magazine, and she was selected by Bram Stoker's great-grandnephew to create the cover for the 125th anniversary edition of Dracula. Her clients include Flame Tree Press, Valancourt Books, Cemetery Dance Publications, Thunderstorm Books, and Raw Dog Screaming Press. She's illustrated works by New York Times best-selling authors, including Jonathan Mayberry, Brian Keene, and Christopher Golden. And her art has been commissioned and collected throughout the United States and overseas. For more information, visit LynnHansenArt.com. Yay, Lynn!
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for the cover, and thanks for coming on to chat a little bit. You all the things I say are true. I know people that that's a mark of success is to have a Lynne Hansen cover. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
And this is the second one that we've been lucky enough to have. And I don't know about you, Carol, but I also have 2 Lynne Hansen covers that I bought and have tucked away because someday I'll write the book that fits them.
Yes. Yeah. So Lynn did A Woman Unbecoming for us for Crone Girls Press, and she also did our cover for Even in the Grave that Jim Chambers and I co-edited through Eastbeck Books, and so really cool stuff. So one of the things that I love, Lynn, is that you pay attention to what's in the story when you decide what to do the cover.
Right.
Let me see if I can. I have the cover somewhere. I know we do. I see it. Here it is. I covered up Rachel with the cover. Yeah. Sorry, Rachel. Yeah. So this is lots and lots and lots of little mushrooms making a skull. So can you tell us a little bit about what you decided to do for this and how you
Put it back.
Well, it was when y'all contacted me, I have to tell you, first of all, I love working with you guys to begin with. And anything you ask me to do, I will do. So that's just a thing. But don't tell anybody. But I've always wanted to do a mushroom skull. I do a lot of different kinds of art, and it is primarily digital. But I have this kind of like little subspecialty where I do collages with vintage scientific illustrations or medical illustrations. And it's just the most fun thing ever. And I've always wanted to do a mushroom one. And I never had any reason to do a mushroom one because the collage work is so much effort. And to be able to, so I never had like really a reason to do it. I was like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do. I just know exactly, because the thing about doing the collage work and creating the skull is that it creates that central image that says this is horror and this is mushrooms, because that's what's going to sell it. I mean, and that great title, Dark Spores, is a great title, right? And to be able to see that from a distance and know what it is, and yet the more that you look at the piece, the more detail you see and the more curious you become, because that's what you need in order for somebody to flip over or read the description and decide if it's a good match for them. And so it was just great joy for me to get to create this. So, and there's t-shirts now, and there will eventually be dresses too.
Oh, I am a big fan. Okay.
I do. One of the other things, where is it? So I also do dresses with some of my art, and t-shirts. I do a calendar and all of these things. So
I wore your shoes today.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I was going to wear my t-shirt, but it's in the wash because I wear it all the time.
Well, I was going to wear my t-shirt, but it's packed because I leave for Australia in 3 days. And so everything is totally packed.
Yes. And
already.
You're down in New Zealand now, right? Yeah.
Yes, I'm in New Zealand now, and I leave for Australia on your Friday.
Yes. Okay.
So, and so I spend 6 weeks in Australia, and then I come back to New Zealand for 6 weeks, and then I'll be back in the U.S. for a little bit.
Oh, cool. Well, I want to show the picture one more time and then ask you, if we could, before we go on to our readers, how many mushrooms do you think are in this picture?
Oh my goodness. I have no idea. We should have a contest or something, and then I'd count them. Right?
Wow. I mean,
it's a lot of mushrooms. When I did a bugs vintage collage that had bugs in it, and it had over 140 different vintage beetle illustrations.
Ooh, I remember that one. Yeah.
So there's a lot.
There's a lot.
I absolutely love the piece, and I was so grateful to get to create for you guys. And you have such an amazing group of authors, such an eclectic. You've taken, so many of the authors have taken it to that kind of. There are lots of different approaches to a subject that in the I think Megan in the chat said. Spores equals instant texture, and so that you had so many folks that took such different approaches to it, and it's just an amazing book. So I'm very grateful to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We're delighted that you came out to chat with us for a few minutes. And if you want to hang out to the end when we all come back on together, you're welcome to. But if you have things you have to do because you're leaving for Australia, I understand if you have to go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. Well, why don't we go on to one of our great authors, and we can start with Rick Claypool. Let's start with his intro.
Rick Claypool writes absurdist horror. He is the author of the novels Skull, Slime, Tentacle, Witch War and Leech Girl Lives, and the novella The Mold Farmer. His writing appears in Had, Ergot, Fungi Magazine, and elsewhere. He is a member of HWA and the Rhode Island Mycological Society.
Well, thanks a ton, Rachel and Carol, and for the Galactic Terrors folks. It's just a real honor and pleasure to be joining you, and I'm happy to share my story from Dark Spores. The title is New Mom Grow Kit, 2 stars. After Mom's death, I moved into her house and ordered one of your new Mom Grow kits. I ordered everything I needed from your website, except the supplies I knew I could get cheaper someplace else. Mom taught me not to waste money. I'm sure that's what she would have wanted me to do. One time in the Kmart parking lot, she gave me a crisp 20 and told me to go get myself some socks. She waited in the car with my little sister. I'd never bought any new clothes for myself. Never been inside Kmart without Mom. I remember taking a pack of black socks with neon stripes to the curly-haired teenage cashier with a little mustache who rang me up. I kept the change in my fist and proudly presented it to her after returning. $3.17? She asked. Where's the rest? She was furious. She marched me and my sister inside and demanded a refund. You ought to be ashamed, she scolded the teenage mustache cashier who took back the socks. He locked eyes with me as my sister mimicked Mom's words. Where's the rest? Where's the rest? So when I noticed the sack of mulch on the new Mom Grow Kit website was priced ridiculously high and would more than double the shipping cost of the whole order, I thought, yeah, no. You keep your pricey mulch, new Mom Grow Kit website. I can get my own mulch. The new Mom Grow Kit website, supplies, arrived in a box that took up most of Mom's front stoop. I hauled it inside and dropped it on the living room floor between the blue-green L-shaped sofa and Mom's monstrous television. I reached my trembling fingers between the flaps of corrugated cardboard to rip the box open. Step one of growing a real new mom. But when I looked inside, confusion replaced my excitement. The supplies were arranged in an awkward way that made them hard to take out. Something about the way the inside of the box was packed, with no clear sign of what to remove first, overwhelmed me with fear that removing the supplies in the incorrect order might cause irreparable damage for which I would inevitably have only myself to blame. I wondered, why would you pack the box like this? You're supposed to understand anyone who orders this kit is grieving, and that grieving people like me sometimes suck at life in a way that makes them crumble before small challenges. New Mom Grow Kit website people, I thought you understood what I was going through. New Mom Grow Kit website people, I thought you cared. Then I realized I'd accidentally opened the box upside down. You New Mom Grow Kit website people didn't let me down after all. The delivery person let me down. In the future, please consider enlarging the font of the box text, indicating which side should be placed face up and which side face down. Removing the upside down New Mom Grow Kit from its box was a struggle, but I managed. I spread out the supplies on the carpet in the living room. There was a little plastic bag with plastic tools for scooping and scraping and so on, a packet of spores the size of a pound of ground beef labeled not for human consumption, a bottle of spore nutrient slurry, a plastic mom-sized mom-shaped mold, and an instruction manual. I hauled the hardware store mulch I'd purchased up from the basement. When I was about to begin, a familiar anxiety crept through my body. It's how I always feel when I'm starting to assemble a new piece of furniture. I knew a mistake early on in the process could ruin everything. I knew I'd have to live with the consequences for as long as I keep whatever I've assembled, possibly forever. Do you ever feel that way, New Mom Grow Kit website people? I read and reread the instructions until I convinced myself I wouldn't screw up the first step, which was combining Mom's ashes with the mulch in the mom-sized, mom-shaped mold. Then I moved on to the second step, which was pouring the nutrient slurry into a bowl. Then I stirred the spore packet. And then, at the bottom of the instruction manual page was the next to last step, emptying the spore slurry into the mold with the ash and mulch mixture. All I had to do next was store the mixture in the plastic mom-sized, mom-shaped mold for a week. I was about to drag the mold into Mom's old room when I closed the instruction manual and saw an additional note on the back page. The note said, "To avoid undesired possibilities, buy New Mom Grow Kit brand gnat spray." I couldn't believe it. I wondered, what kind of greedy, shameless business are you running, attempting to upsell extra products in the instruction manual? The nerve, taking advantage of grieving people like that. I knew Mom would never have tolerated that sort of thing when she was alive. My new mom hatched from her mold on a Tuesday. She shambled around stiffly at first. Her mycelium hair stuck out wildly in raggy clumps. Feeble, half-formed arms hung uselessly at her sides. Her face was a white mass my imagination could find only the faintest hint of my original mom in. But there was enough mom-ishness about my new mom that I found myself immediately, effortlessly loving her, and I believe she loved me in return. This is the moment when New Mom Grow Kit earned its 2 stars. I dressed her in a sweatshirt with a duck on it and a pair of pink sweatpants, then used some of her old makeup to draw her face on. I'm not much of an artist, but it didn't matter. Mom was smiling at me again. I tried brushing her hair, but the delicate threads came loose too easily, and soft hunks of her foamy scalp came out with them. I found a ball cap with a manatee on it and put it on her. For several days, I spent at least several minutes with my new mom, which was what your instructions said I'm supposed to do so my new mom knows it's loved. I was picking balls of lint off the Afghan on the back of the couch when my sister called. She told me she was going through a rough patch at work, where she diffuses bombs. Sometimes the bombs explode and the explosions take a toll, she said, physically and spiritually. She suffered a bout of temporary blindness after her last contract. Even after her recovery, her vision was pixelated, she said, possibly permanently. I invited her to stay with me at Mom's house, and she agreed to the visit in a hesitant way I knew meant I should expect problems. My sister arrived with a new mom of her own. I could tell by the way she stood in the doorway, avoiding eye contact through her special glasses, that she was a little embarrassed. My sister's new mom lurked silently behind her, wearing a shiny, squeaky purple raincoat and a floral print babushka over its mycelium hair. "You have nothing to be ashamed of," I told her. "I ordered a new mom too. Hey, maybe our new moms can keep each other company." I let them in and went looking for my new mom, who I hadn't checked on for the past few days. It's not that I didn't love her. I did. I just didn't like seeing or being around her all the time. I found her in Mom's bedroom, on the floor beside Mom's bed, face down in the plastic mold that came with the New Mom Grow Kit. I turned her over, and a cloud of gnats took flight. I sat her up and saw I needed to reapply her makeup. There were little holes in the surface of her face, on her eyebrows and cheeks where her lips should be, and in the lamplight I was sure I saw little worms quickly withdraw into them. The little holes were little tunnels that I did not know how deep below the surface they went. While reapplying her eyeliner, I was sure I saw something peek out of a tunnel on the side of her nose. Revolted, I stabbed it with the eyeliner pencil. I don't know if I killed it or missed it, but I gouged my new mom a new nostril. She made a soft grunting sound as my sister and her new mom appeared in the doorway. Was it a greeting? A plea for help? I had no idea. I used my body to block my sister from seeing my new mom's face while I hastily applying a dollop of foundation over the extra nostril I'd gouged. "Her room looked exactly the same?" my sister said, and her questioning tone of voice reminded me of her failing vision, and I relaxed. My sister's new mom pushed past my sister into Mom's room. "It's like she knows it's her room," I said. "Yeah," said my sister, who pulled a spray bottle from her purse. She squirted the spray bottle's contents in her new mom's face, which somehow had what looked like an actual photograph of Mom's face printed on its pale surface. As far as I could tell, it didn't have any holes in it. I must admit that the way my sister's new mom looked way better than my new mom was kind of upsetting to me. And I'll leave it there. But things
Things go from there. Yeah.
things go even more wrong than how
Yeah.
it started.
I love this story because if that's the base and the things go from there, that's like so wild. Yeah. Yeah. That's terrific. Okay. I just have to share two quick comments. Megan in the chart. Oh, Megan said, first she said, ick. And she said, but awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. What started this in your mind to do this story, Rick?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things sort of swirling around. I mean, part of it is like, I mean, in my, I honestly fairly recently, like, am like, you know, grieving the loss of my mother. And one thing that we share in common was kind of a demented sense of humor, and a sort of way of thinking about things. And that, you know, combined with, you know, and thinking about a fungal horror story, that in this, you know, one of the things that I wanted to write about for the anthology was trying to, that something that I didn't think others, a place that I didn't think others would go. And one of the things that I experience fairly frequently in the process of foraging is a mushroom in the woods that the bugs got to first. It's just like, and, you know, you could, you know, if you could feel that, you know, you kind of expect it to be, you know, a little bit firm, but it's actually, you know, hollow. You guarantee if you look inside, and it can be writhing, you know, with you know.
So what do you think? I think maybe infested fungus could be our new band name. What do you guys think?
All right, infested fungus. I love it.
Yeah, infested fungus.
the visual images, oh Lord, the imagery that you evoke in the story is visceral. You know, when you're talking about brushing her hair and that chunk, I was like, oh, but you can imagine, you can feel it as you're reading. It was just spot on.
Thank you. Yeah, that's, I think that's the, you know, the one of the, like, I don't know, I think, you know, part of the thing with like mushrooms is it's also in many ways, you know, it's food, and food gone bad has, you know, and mushrooms sort of gone, you know, things that are rotten, right? They just have like this texture that, yeah, it brings its own. It's not hard to make it horror.
This is true. Well, we have a question from the audience. Nick is asking, you got a fistful of dollars. What do you prefer to go all out on, morels or truffles? Whichever you pick, how do you like to prepare or eat them?
Oh, can I, you know, I would, honestly, my personal favorite is black trumpets, you know, which I just find that they are, you know, they're, you know, sometimes they can get them store bought, and I find that they are there's something truffle like about them, but you know, but you can,
the texture or the flavor or the
flavor. I mean, they have like a distinct, like hard to describe kind of flavor that.
Kind of like your writing. Yeah. See what I did there? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, that's cool. Oh, that's cool.
I have a question, actually. What's your cat's name?
My cat. Oh, yes. I got photobombed there. That's Marceline.
Yes. Okay. Marceline. Well, somebody did point out in the chat it's not an official online event until we have at least one feline. So thank
there
you
you
for
go.
sharing that. Yeah.
We tick the box there.
Yeah, and I just want to share some real quick. There's I got to do some foraging with Rick when we were up at Necronomicon. He did a group event for some folks, and that was really cool. And I took, as I do, I took a whole bunch of pictures. And so here's one. Here's Rick. I'm covering up Rick with a picture of Rick. He's finding something cool there, and he knows what it is. Yes, he knows what that is, but I don't. And then there's another one where he found something that we couldn't get to, but so he was good enough to take a picture of it and show it to us, which is real cool, and stuff. And then, oh dear goodness, I clicked on the wrong thing. Yep, no, that's cool. No, those are the two I had. But that was a really fun event that you did, and it was really cool to see them out in the wild more than just what's in the grocery store. So I really appreciated you doing that. So thank you so much.
Thanks for coming out. No, I love doing those walks.
Oh yeah, it was fun. Well, listen, so what we're going to do is have a couple other of our readers do some reading, and if we could have you come back at the end and we can all talk a little bit about mushrooms real quick and what you have coming up, that'd be great.
For sure. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for joining us. What I'd love to do is have our next author, TEEL James Glenn, come on.
TEEL James Glenn has dozens of published novels. His work has been printed in over 200 magazines, including Weird Tales, Mystery, Pulp Adventures, Mad, Cursova, Heroic Fantasy, and Sherlock Holmes Mystery. His A Cowboy in Carpathia, a Bob Howard adventure, won Best Novel 2021 in the Pulp Factory Award. More about Teal at theurbanswashbuckler.com.
In the dark. The first thing Warren Brent noticed about her was her skin, the alabaster white the poet spoke of, showing in her arms and legs and cleavage above her dark red mini dress. Then he saw her two eyes, blue beacons beneath long black shoulder-length haircut that seemed to make her skin glow even whiter. Warren sipped his whiskey and tried not to stare too obviously at the woman across the dance floor. Should it make it easier by the fact that she seemed to be staring at him? This has possibilities, he thought. It was then when she pulled out the vape pen, took a long sucking hit on it, then spewed out a cloud of vapor around her that Warren knew he had to make a move. He set his empty glass on the bar and tried to make his movement across the nightclub as casual as possible. Can't look desperate. Can't chase her away before I catch her. Thought of catching her. What he planned to do to her when he did caused him to smile. Most of the others hadn't even been discovered yet. Hi there, Warren said as he sidled up beside the smoking Cyrene. Up close, her skin was even more flawless, the pores invisible, her eyes even more piercing with a lambic inner light. I'm Warren. The woman exhaled, a little mist around her that seemed to float like a halo, and that flowed toward him. She smiled, her thin painted-on lips parting to reveal blindingly white, perfect teeth. I love her, she said in a low, throaty whisper. I'm Flora. Warren shivered. Something about her whisper touched his spine like icy fingers, somewhere between a thrill and a sensation of terror. That made him want to have her even more, and for a brief instant he flashed on what could be, what he would make happen, and what had been with the others. His second shiver was a memory of pure joy. I haven't seen you here before, Flora, and I come here regularly. I only get out sporadically. Well, tonight is my lucky night, then. She blew another halo enveloping him and smiled again. It could be. Bingo! He could not keep the grin from his face and hoped he only looked goofy and in no way sinister. They talked of inconsequential things while the dance music throbbed in the background. The noise gave him an excuse to lean close to talk, and he inhaled her earthy scent. She didn't giggle girlishly as so many of the others had, remaining coolly distant when he joked. That somehow excited him even more. After 2 drinks that he bought, he mutually agreed to head out into the night air. After the noise of a club, the city was quiet, the background human and machine noises as calming as bird songs. The two paused 10 steps from the nightclub entrance, and he saw her full form in the yellow streetlight. She wore 3-inch heels, but still only came up to his shoulder and was built on a delicate yet curvaceous frame. In the better light, he could see that her eyebrows were drawn on. He realized she was wearing a wig. God, I hope this isn't one of those cross-dressers. If they were, ooh, he'd make them pay even more than the woman would have paid. She saw him looking at her. Her seductive smile became a coy one, even shy. I see you noticed my eyebrows and eyelashes are false. It's not contagious. It's just a condition. Like alopecia? He'd heard about the condition, but he'd never met anyone who had it. Yes, it made all my hair fall out. All of it? His gaze wandered down and then looked back up to lock eyes with her. At least that explains the eyebrows and the wig. Better be true. Yes, there too, she said in a throaty whisper. She blew another cloud of vapor at him as he leaned in to nuzzle her neck. He got bold then and kissed her neck, licking along the length of it. Salty. And something else, an earthy taste. Some kind of body oil? She didn't push him away. In fact, she leaned into him, then turned to look up into his eyes. My place is not far. Let's go there. She didn't have to ask twice. Warren slipped his arm around her narrow waist and allowed her to direct their journey. He enjoyed the warmth of her body against his side as they walked slowly down the street, and he found himself becoming excited with the prospect that she had no hair. It would be a novel experience for him, and frankly, the novelty of what he did to the women was beginning to wear off. He tried to imagine her throaty whisper forced into a howling scream, and he laughed. What's so funny? She led him down the basement steps to her apartment, bottom of a brownstone. She locked the door behind them. Oh, it's just a private thought, he said, hoping his wry smile was alluring and not off-putting. He noticed an earthy smell in the hall and thought about how many old buildings had mold in them. But it also meant thick, nice walls that muted the sounds of screams. Flora stopped at the door at the end of the hall. I like to keep it dark inside. I hope you don't mind. Doesn't matter to me, he was thinking. I'll fix that. When I get to work, I like to see the blood. Good. She opened the door. I wouldn't want to spoil things with bright light. He slipped in behind her, making sure that the door was locked, noting it was good and thick. Maybe even soundproof. The woman set her vape pen on the table by the door, along with her keys. He could see dark shapes in the corners of the room, but they were dimly illuminated. He assumed they were old-style furniture. He could see little else. Warren idly picked up the vape pen and decided to take a hit to sweeten the experience to come. He felt his blood rush to the surface and his pulse quicken. This was the moment just before the excitement of the fantasy about to become reality. Their pain about to become exquisite. I hope you don't mind, Flora said, but this thing gets itchy. She removed her wig and tossed it aside. At the same time, she slipped the shoulder straps of her dress off and let it drop to the floor. The effect stunned Warren. Her skin seemed to glow in the dark room even more than it had at the club. He tried to draw on the vape pen, but there was nothing there. He let his eyes rove over her voluptuous figure. And he stopped. You have no... I told you I had no hair, she said in a throaty voice as she moved toward him with a sensuous, undulating motion. And there's no point in holding that, lover. It's always been empty. As she spoke, a little cloud of vapor surrounded her face as if she were still vaping. But you have no. He backed away until he pressed against the door. Worse than what could have been if they had been a transvestite. Sex organ, she said, in a sibilant laugh. Oh, but lover, I do. Just not the way you think. He found himself captured by her eyes, the blue of them now blazing azure flames. The cloud that surrounded her began to swarm toward him. He shivered, unable to move, the earthy smell of her and the vapors that had enveloped and invaded him. He saw now that there were no delicate shell-like ears that should have accompanied the alabaster skin, according to the poets. There were not even holes in the side of her head. It was smooth. She locked her lips to his and forced the vaporous spores into him. In moments, he could feel the filaments grabbing hold and growing within him. His insides were occupied, and the filaments began to grow and entwine, coursing out from his lungs into his bloodstream until they crawled into his brain. Then Warren Brent was no more, just an incubator and a food source for Flora's next generation of children. She smiled as she dragged him into a nice dark corner of the room. I told you I only came out sporadically.
I love it every time I hear you read that. It's so wonderfully creepy. I just have to say, you're a very nice person, Teal. And yet,
yeah. I mean, yes, I must be.
Right. Yes.
I mean,
yeah. Rachel, what were your thoughts when you first read this one? Do you recall?
Well, I remember thinking it is classic Teal because I started reading and I was like, man, this guy's a jerk.
You mean the character?
The character. Yeah, yes. Not Teal. The character Teal was writing. Like, wow, this guy's really a jerk. I really hate him. Boy, I hope Teal's got something in store for him. And he did.
Yes. Well, Megan agreed. She says Warren equals ick.
Well, it was the old joke that people tell about guy picks up a hitchhiker and the hitchhiker looks at him and says, "Aren't you worried about, picking up somebody who's crazy like a serial killer?" And the driver looks at the passenger and goes, "What are the odds of two of us in a car?"
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I was doing a movie once and we were between takes and I just had some dialogue with somebody. It was nothing big. We were on the street in Spanish Harlem and a bunch of kids came up to me and looked at me and go, "You're the bad guy, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." It's like, yeah, sure.
Right away. Okay.
Yeah, I was the crooked cop and like, okay, I guess it's as obvious as can be.
In the movie, okay. Oh, well, why do they cast all the nice guys as the bad guys? I don't understand that one.
Then I shot the kids. I mean, no, it's fine. They're good,
Oh my goodness. So my question is, first of all, congratulations on that pun. It's a fantastic pun. 10 stars. But where did you get, because I know you do a lot of pulp and I know you do a lot of like these fun noir novels and stories. So is that where this came from?
Well, actually, I thought of the pun first. I was thinking, okay, mushrooms, spores, sporadically. Okay. And then I went, okay, if I'm going to have some sort of predatory mushroom, it's going to have a form that's like a siren that draws you in. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, where's the hunting ground? Going to be the discos, it's going to be the nightclubs. And it sort of just, it went very quickly once I sat down to write it. I mean, it wasn't one of these, like I agonized over it for days. It just sort of all kind of click came in. I thought it was going to be longer when I started, but I realized that this was it, But somebody once told me that the ideal short story should feel like the end of a novel. It's everything comes together. And I really like Poe, and Poe's dictum of the first word should always lead directly to the last, and that the last word or the last sentence should be where it lands. And that's why I wrote toward the sporadically. I knew that had to be where it landed. Mm-hmm. If I were doing this visually, you would see her reflection in his eyes as she says that. so that you're seeing his last moments of him out. you
Yeah.
know? Because
Oh, I can
that's
see
why I
the.
had to have her say it to him,
Yeah. Oh, I can see it as a short film. That would be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really neat. Well, thank you so much for sharing the words, because I love reading it on the page, but and everybody in the audience said the same thing. I always love hearing you read these aloud. So thank you so much for sharing your words. It was very, very cool. Yeah. Thanks, Dylan. So come back with us at the end and we'll talk about what's coming up and stuff. So
All right.
cool.
I'll lie then too.
Like a rug. All right. Thank you. How about if we move on to one of our invited poets, Lee Murray?
Lee Murray is a 5-time Bram Stoker Award winner, a Shirley Jackson Award winner, and recipient of New Zealand's Prime Minister's Award. Her latest work is the prose poetry collection Fox Spirit on a Distant Cloud. Read more at leemurray.info.
Point zero. It dropped in on a lump of rock that sublimated, a cosmic alien becoming airborne, while the scientist argued triple points. Powers that be had us mask up. Not that again. Still our bodies spored, riddled with cosmic fruit, the same tired arguments circulating. We watched the screen, paralyzed by events, apple skin splitting, viscera disgorging over the floral couch substrate. Still, we couldn't look away. Hurry, spreading deeper, pain that pierce births. Oh God, please, the threads weave through and up and out until we're weep woven and still warping. Come, it commands us, this way. Except a strange thing happens. We connect on some weird level, interlacing not just us, but billions, warped in post-cosmic enthalpy. We forget about divisions, left, right, and center. We become something other, different, yet still with the all-consuming hubris. Languid, I'm struggling to remember something vital, or maybe someone. Only it doesn't matter now.
So many amazing images in there, Lee. It's just, wonderfully creepy. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Lee, I believe congratulations are in order for their poetry collection, Fox Spirits on a Distant Cloud.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's been long listed in the local National Book Awards and shortlisted for the Bram Stoker. So very, very pleased. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes, very exciting. Oh, I love reading your poetry, knowing that you also write stories and novels, and I don't think everyone can do that. Or maybe people don't know that they can write poetry. But could you tell us a little bit about how it affects you to the way that you're writing the story? Are you writing something that's a poem in a format, or are you writing a longer piece? How does that work in your head?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah. I always thought of myself as a prose writer, but I always wanted to write better prose, like more evocative, laden with imagery, the kind of stuff that we've just heard from our prose readers. And the thing is that, so I went to lots of poetry workshops because I wanted my prose to count, every word to count, and to be, have that brevity and conciseness. And so, I went to talks by Linda Addison and Donna Lynch and Stephanie Wojtowicz, and to really try and create narratives that had that kind of tight imagery. And so by the same token, being a prose writer, I kind of also want my poems to tell a story and not just be a fruit salad of imagery. So kind of, I think that's sort of where it comes from. And now a lot of my short stories are actually poems, and don't tell anybody, but they're kind of prose poems, and they're not actually short stories, but So I'm kind of sneaking a bit more poetry in. So it's good poetry is a story, and good stories have a poetry about them. So I kind of think there's a lot of seamlessness that should go on between the two formats. So I'm not sure what I am, whether I'm a poet or a prose writer or a bit of both. I don't know. I don't really know. But thank you for asking about my process, which is very messy. Yeah.
I think the answer is yes, you are.
Yeah, and in terms of where I went with this, because I remember telling you, Carol, that I was going to write about the New Zealand white basket fungus, which is now, if I can describe it, it's kind of like you would expect the skeleton of a basketball to be. It's kind of hexagonal, and a little basket is white, and about the size of your fist. And I remember them as a little girl walking to school, especially after it rained, and they would be on the sidewalk. These little baskets, little fairy baskets, effectively like sort of Easter egg baskets. And yeah, I know. And I thought, I'll write a poem about that. That will be fantastic. And the Maori call them te tai kehuia, which means ghost droppings, which I thought, oh yes, there's a demon aspect to it, So, but then I couldn't think of the poem. It was just like the poem didn't come to me. And all the time I was thinking about spores, I was thinking about Emma Carey's The Girl with All the Gifts, which there's been a film about it. I don't know if you've read the novel. And that sort of underlying theme of the hubris of humans to think that if there's this pandemic of fungi or spores take over, that we should survive and come out the other end still being human. And I really love that notion, because spores are just so pervasive, aren't they? And we just imagine what might happen if some alien spore arrived, and I thought so that kind of took over in the story, and the poem became something else. And so, sorry, little basket fungus, maybe I'll think of that poem somewhere along the line.
Maybe somewhere else. That could be. Yeah.
I think they're the only kind of fungus that you don't eat smothered in butter, because isn't that kind of the way most mushrooms are eaten, is smothered in butter? But these ones are tended to be eaten, popped in the ashes of a fire, and then taken out and eaten roasted, or else popped in a hangi, which is an earth oven, and eaten steamed, sort of slow steamed, before they go slimy and all the spores come out, and they really are stinky. Yeah, not nice. You wouldn't want to eat that.
You want to be sure to eat all the spores. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marge Simon calls them alien spores in a basket. Yes.
Yeah, that goes demon spores in a basket. That's what sounds like something that some posh restaurant would serve up with foam or something.
Right? One of those high-tech cooking, chefs who's got like the chemicals and the blowtorch, which it is an interesting fungal dichotomy of spores, yikes, ew, horror, and then also I'm kind of feeling hungry right now.
Yeah, they're delicious. Yeah, exactly.
That's so true. And we worry about spores getting into our system, and yet we invite them. So yes, go figure. Hey, we have a slightly different question from Nick Dyack, who wants to know, will Tane McKenna ever fight a giant fungus kaiju?
Oh my gosh, Nick, I have an idea for another Tane McKenna novella, but it might end up not being Tane, because I've sort of moved away. It might be someone else, but yes, because in New Zealand we have the big kauri, which are sort of like your sequoias or redwoods, which are huge, massive, huge trees. And the Maori legend is that the kauri hold up the sky, and so when the kauri die, the world will disappear, which is a kind of, when trees go, there won't be any earth. So I think it's sort of prophetic. But they're dying back, and it's called kauri dieback, and it's actually a fungus, a giant fungus, kind of beneath the earth, in the peat marshes where the kauri grow. So yes, there's an idea kind of brewing there, and I'd love to do that one. So never say never, Nick, is the answer to that question.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. Now I want to go write it, so maybe I'll have to put
Sorry.
something else aside.
Well, you know,
hang out until the end of the show and then go rate it.
yes. You're one of the more prolific authors I know, so I have a feeling this will fit in there very shortly. So, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Oh my.
Yeah.
So, do you have a sort of a TV show or a movie that you like about fungus? Is there anything that you think of from visual media that grabs you? I don't know. Sometimes people think that way and sometimes they don't. Does your brain work that way or not?
Yeah, I tell you though, not necessarily a movie, but this year on the New Zealand award lists, one of the key non-fiction works is just a work about foraging New Zealand fungi and mushrooms, and it's got this beautiful blue, bright, vivid Facebook blue mushroom on the cover, and it's really done very well. So New Zealanders are very interested in this. This is a really mycology is a really interesting topic, and also just because we have all these lovely forested areas where you can just walk out and forage, so it's a very topical thing right at the moment. I don't know, so that's interesting. Yeah, just the fact that that non-fiction is it's a big thing here in New Zealand at the moment.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah, who knew?
Yeah,
now we do, and that's why we're so excited to have you come on. And I also want to thank you, and of course, Lynn. You know, you're here at 2:00 on Tuesday for you, and it's Monday night at 9:00 for us. So thank you for adjusting for the time difference. You know,
that's fine. It's easy. We've made an excuse not to cook dinner tonight, so just because, you know.
Well, we could do it again tomorrow if that would help.
Yeah, that would be good.
No problem. You know, no cooking, no dishes. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lee. If you want to come back at the end and tell us about
I'll stick around.
That'd be great. That's terrific.
Thanks.
Now, why don't we move on to our last reader, James Chambers.
Yes.
James Chambers is a Bram Stoker Award and Scribe Award-winning author and a 4-time Bram Stoker Award nominee. His short stories have appeared in anthologies and publications in multiple genres, including crime, fantasy, horror, pulp, science fiction, steampunk, and more.
Good evening. Thank you all for joining us for Galactic Terrors tonight for this special showcase of Dark Spores. I'm going to read a bit from my story in the anthology. It's called The Epigeus Dead. The corpse things fruited from the damp earth on a Tuesday morning. A dozen sprouted in a ring around the graves in the oldest, most tree-lined part of the cemetery. 2 days of thunderstorms and drenching rains. Then they rose, organic effigies swaying in the wind, arms outstretched to the sky, heads back, mouths wide as if in glorious silent song. Pale crimson pulp replaced rotted flesh molded to dry skeletons. Tattered Sunday best outfits fluttered from twisted limbs and torsos. Bone gleamed through bare spots in their makeshift skin. The rising sun painted the figures gold as their bulbous heads tilted under the burden of their resurrection. Sunken black pits, once home to eyes, gazed out through clouds of flies. I slumped behind the wheel of my car, so shocked by the sight I felt only a pang of frustration at the maintenance crew's pickup truck blocking my exit from the section that held Beatrice's plot. Not that anyone at work cared if I showed up late, or at all. After the past 6 months, no one nagged me anymore about missing reports and unreturned phone calls. I could sit in my office all day, and no one would knock at the door. So why not sit and watch the laborers back their truck up along a narrow row between grave markers, its reverse signal shrilling crudely. I flicked off my car radio and rolled down my window while I waited. A strange, musty perfume drifted into my car. It reminded me of Beatrice's favorite scent, trapped forever under a crystal rose topper in a half-full glass bottle on her dresser, furred with dust. A voice called my name. or at least it sounded like my name, a phonetic doppelganger that flickered in my brain, and no one around to have spoken it other than the work crew. I hinched my car onto the pavement's edge, then got out to lean against the hood. The cemetery piece soothed my nerves, raw and rattled from sleeplessness. I'd come to rely on it as much as my morning coffee to get through the day. The scent of recent storms still lingered in the air despite the cloudless sky. All around me, granite and marble touted the names of those laid to rest. But in this historic part of the cemetery, time and weather had stripped clean most of the details, the way time steals good memories. When the pickup truck cleared, I could have gotten back in my car, gone back about my day, gone to work. But the gnarled figures captivated me. They looked ready to spring to life. The sound of my name brushed my senses again, faint and teasing, and I realized it wasn't the figures holding my interest, but the sound that seemed to emanate from them. An airy susurrus swirled over their heads like the flutter of moth wings, growing louder, more distinct as the trio of sullen laborers put on brave faces and approached to the risen. They carried shovels and picks and dragged green landscaping barrels, ready to destroy, remove, and discard. The lead man, bald and mustached, lifted his shovel and prodded what resembled a middle-aged woman in a disintegrating navy blue dress and pearl necklace. She bobbed, her head tottering almost comically, then quivered. I didn't understand why the men seemed so unperturbed by the figures. Maybe they'd seen others like them. Maybe they thought kids had erected them as pranks. Maybe they were part of a new, gruesome style of memorial. Or maybe the men just didn't care beyond the task of clearing them out. The bald man poked the woman thing again. The flutter whisper gathered in growing vibration. I glanced around for a machine creating the palpable thrum rising from the ground through the soles of my feet, up my spine, and needling into my brain. But no vehicles other than my Infinity and the pickup truck, neither running, were in sight. As the hum grew, the other two laborers cringed and covered their ears. I clamped my hands over my own, but it did nothing against the intensifying shrillness that seemed to spring from within my skull. The oral illusion of my name persisted, rippling out of white noise like a sonic sprout budding from cacophonous soil. Again, the bald worker poked the woman thing, trying to topple her, digging the shovel tip in a couple of inches deep. And in reaction, the sound erupted into a soul-chilling scream, a crushing, banshee wail of total despair and inescapable fate that gouged into my awareness. Then, the woman thing exploded. She burst like a puffball mushroom, dousing the laborer in a mist of vaguely pink dust. Reeling from the eruption, he tripped and fell flat on his back, then clawed at his throat, choking, his face coated with magenta powder, red puffs of breath wheezing from his mouth. The other workmen stood frozen in fear until one snatched a face mask from a toolbox in the bed of the pickup. Tugging it hastily over his mouth and nose, he dashed in and dragged the gasping man away from the cloud, which, after a few seconds, settled thickly onto neighboring graves. Of the woman thing, only chunky, fibrous remnants of her feet remained, fragmented on the loose earth. The 11 others quivered and hummed. In their phantom sound, I listened to my name, its syllables spoken with the soft sweetness of familiarity, disrupted by the harried voices of the workers yelling at me to get in my car and go, that they were closing the cemetery, even as they rushed their fallen friend to the pickup. They didn't care enough to look back, though, as they sped away toward the mausoleum on the east side of the grounds. The morning breeze swept my face with a touch of the day's oncoming warmth. The sun surmounted the tree line. The corpse thing's shadows spider-legged across the grass and grave markers, and somehow, from somewhere, came the sound of my name. I closed my eyes and held my breath and heard it again, not with my ears, though, no, but as if the syllables resonated within my skull. Lips tight, vertigo creeping up on me from lack of oxygen, I sifted the sound cloud, swimming blind through a lake of radio static, searching for a clear signal. "You hear them," a man said. His coarse, throaty voice snapped me out of my reflection. I opened my eyes and resumed breathing. "What they telling you, man?" he said. Maybe 6 feet tall, with a wiry build, rich brown skin, and short graying hair, the man tilted his head and squinted as he looked me up and down. His eyes showed so little white his sockets resembled those of the corpse things. A threadbare gray three-piece suit draped his bony frame, suggesting weight lost since its tailoring. A red tie like a streak of blood hung from his neck. He held a faded gym bag in one hand. "Who are you?" I said. "Name's Roman." "Come on, man. What do they say to you? Tell me." He stepped forward, his stance threatening. Maybe he spied the bags under my eyes and sized me up for easy intimidation. But I had nothing to lose, no one to care about or care about me. "What's it to you? Fuck off, mind your own business," I said. I walked onto the lawn among the graves, toward the circle of corpse things. Roman hurried after me, his footsteps padding grass. "Whoa, hey, sorry, man, don't be like that. Just chill a minute, all right? You don't want to go messing with those things," he said. "Just tell me, do they know your name?" I stopped mid-stride. This close to the corpse things, the air crackled with their presence. Not turning around, I said, "What if they do?" "Oh, yeah, they do all right. I see it now." Roman sidestepped around me beyond arm's reach. He waggled his finger at his temple. "It bops around inside your skull, right? You don't hear it, but you hear it. You're close to their world. Someone on their side wants to touch you." "Whose world?" I said. "You know what these things are? One of them blew up in a guy's face, doused him in pink powder." "Yeah, that guy's fucked. He got a full dose. Those are spores," said Roman. "What, like plants?" "Nah, fungi. In the right conditions, they grow fast, spring up overnight, then wait to cast their seeds into the world. I tried to get out here last night before anyone messed with them, but the energy was wrong, very foul, the connection unstable. If I'd come, they might have sucked me over to their side. Had to wait for the daylight. Didn't think anyone else would get out here so damn early." "What the hell are you talking about?" I gestured at the corpse things. "Those things are alive?" "Hell no, they're not alive. Not the bodies, anyway. Wouldn't be any good to me if they were. But the fungus, yeah, that's a living thing, and I spent a lot of rough years cultivating it just right. Why are you here so damn early, man? Don't you have better places to be?" A shudder trembled through me. Without meaning to, I glanced toward the quarter of the cemetery where Beatrice lay, only a few months interred. "Oh, I see. You're grieving. Wondering if you're really still living, or maybe you died right along with whoever you lost. A child? A wife? Someone unbearable to part with. You're still hoping it's a nightmare you might wake up from, even if you wake up dead. You're not dead, though. You're as alive as me and every other poor sucker on God's green earth, although you most certainly walk in the valley of the shadow of death." Roman's hard stare softened as he released a long breath. "Listen, none of this is meant for you. Best thing for you to do is go home and enjoy the days you got left. Know what I mean? That guy who got a face full of spores is one of the first, but there'll be others. Maybe someone will figure out how to stop it, maybe not. Won't be my problem. I'll have what I want long before then." "Stop what? You're not making sense," I said. Then the pseudo sound recaptured my attention. A voice in the circle called my name and obliterated the world outside my head. It compelled me to move. I shoved past Roman closer to the broken circle. Roman hustled after me, urging me back, ordering me to keep out. His words meant nothing now that I recognized who was calling to me. Beatrice. Not her voice, no, but its cadence and weight, a telepathic intrusion into the nerve centers of my brain, a conjuring of sound without its physical presence. As I neared the ring, the pulpy details of the corpse things obtained clarity. No one could ever mistake them for living people, but they possessed an energy I didn't understand. Their mouths opened on throats like tunnels that seemed to drill through their core, straight into the earth, far underground, tapping into the deep hidden places down there, into the underworld, where something stirred. stop there.
You better. No. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, Jim, that it's so wonderfully creepy.
Thank you. This one was a lot of fun to write.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun to read as well.
Yeah.
I'm always happy when the editor thinks that.
Yeah, that's a great one. Oh my goodness. So how did you get there?
Yeah, it's always roundabout for me, and I don't always see what connects point A to point G, so to speak. There's like letters in between, and but I think this one started. I had originally been toying around with the idea of doing something with the I forget exactly what they're called, but there are these shrouds or suits you can be buried in after you pass away that sprout mushrooms.
Yes,
And I
yes.
think, Carol, you were doing that. I had
Yes,
said,
I had that in my
doing
story in there. Yeah, the greenhouse. Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to do something with the idea of, fungus or mushrooms growing from corpses and having a connection. And I had been also toying around with some ideas about necromancy. And so I just kind of pulled everything together into this.
Ah, cool.
It's amazing how many stories in this anthology come from a place of such deep grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was what resonated for me in this story. And reading it several times, as you do when you're putting an anthology together, that note of grief rang more true the more times that I read the story. I thought it was very, just a very chilling way to approach this idea of trying to cheat death, as Roman does.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
And I think Lee had a note or had a comment, which was also something that I was thinking. Yes, it was just the perfect phrase to refer to this perfect uncanny phrase. Were you always calling them, corpse thing, woman thing, or was that something that happened as you were writing it, or as you were in the editing process?
I think that was there from the beginning. That was sort of how I thought of them in my head. These effigies or mannequins, in a sense, these things that resemble humans but are not human. But they're sort of stealing human form.
Wow. That's
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's cool. All right. As usual, we have a pretty interesting question from Nick Dyack. What's the most interesting horror aspect of mushrooms to you? The poison aspect, the psychedelic aspect, the takeover control something aspect, the decaying of things, something else?
All of the above, Nicholas. I think those are all really frightening aspects of mushrooms and great fodder for horror stories. But I think what really captured my imagination with this one, and there's a little bit of this in the story, is how quickly mushrooms can appear, literally overnight. And I've seen that just in my own yard. We'll have a heavy rain and go out the next morning and there's mushrooms everywhere. And then I have to panic and hope they're not poisonous mushrooms or anything that's going to make my dog sick if they happen to eat them, because they sniff and chew on everything they can find that's interesting. But I think it was the speed with which they can spread. And that's, I don't want to provide too much of a spoiler, but as you get further into the story, that aspect of them becomes much more important and much more of a factor in the plot.
Yeah. And it wonderfully creepy.
Yeah. And the other thing, one thing I think you didn't have on your list is the fact that they can be there. These things can be there underground, and you just don't know they're there until they sprout.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And I had a fairy ring pop up in my lawn. one year, and as I saw it, I looked over. There was a giant hawk sitting next to it with a dead squirrel, like right next to the fairy ring. It's like, okay, I'm going back inside now. We're just like crossing too many streams here. You know, that's a little too much. You know,
It sounds like an omen.
Mm-hmm. It does. Well, listen, I love this story, Jim, and I hope people can pick up the anthology and read the rest of it and some of the other stories as well. But we've had so many cool things to talk about here. Why don't we bring everybody back in a little bit? I'll go ahead and do that. Get everybody in here. Cool. So, oh my gosh, thank you everybody for sharing your stories and your images. And I really enjoyed hearing the stories in your words.
It sounds like an omen.
And
Lynn, I love this story, Jim.
And we just repeat that. I'm a little bit on time delay.
The other stories as well.
We're getting a little echo. Yeah.
So somebody may have something.
Why don't we bring everybody back in? I'll go ahead and do that.
I don't know.
It is not me because I could not figure out how to turn it on.
If someone's watching on another device, I think that's what we're hearing.
And your images. And
Maybe the Facebook feed.
I think my phone was the culprit. I am the one. I was invading the spores of the sound. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So, Lynn, I want to ask you. You're the one who made this beautiful artwork and the beautiful image for us and all. And what's your thought after you hear some of the stories read aloud? What does that affect you in any way in terms of your image of what you've heard? And I'm not sure, Lynn was having sound troubles before. I'm not sure if she can hear us.
She probably thinks we need to be committed.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, I think maybe she can't hear us.
Taken her. Here we go. She's got her head.
Oh,
yeah.
Lynn, can you hear
Lynn,
us?
can you hear us now? No.
Oh,
okay.
No, I don't think she can. I could shout down the hallway.
Okay. Lynn. I don't know. I'm just going to put a thing in the over here. So let me go on with a different question then. We'll come back to Lynn.
Okay.
There we go. So what do you guys think about mushrooms now that you've spent some time focusing on your stories for them?
I want a good steak. I've been all of this thing is making me hungry for steak and mushrooms. I don't know why.
That's kind of intriguing. Is that your best way? Yeah,
I was going to say I am really impressed by the variety of just. I thought we were going to get like a bunch of fairy stories, and I don't think we got any. Right?
My first impulse was to do a fairy ring story. Honestly. And I went, no, I won't go dark enough with that. I've done a fairy ring story before, and they take me generally to a bright place or a brighter place. So, yeah, I could see where that would be a natural thing.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. What now, Rick, you spend a lot of time with mushrooms, with foraging and all. Do you feel different about having your story with your mom kit coming out?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, I was sort of I was interested in mushrooms as like a literary device, as a theme, symbolizing rot, and just thinking about the sort of the ideas behind it sort of before, I got into the, foraging and some of the, fell down the rabbit hole of like the science and things like that. So now it's like, yeah, so I don't know. It's all left me, transformed for sure. But
which is cool. Yeah. Well, I will give you more than 2 stars. Yeah.
That's
Can
very
I
kind.
can I ask you a question, Carol and Rachel? Because I haven't got a copy of the book yet, so forgive me. But I was just wondering if there's obviously lots of variety. I can tell from even just the stories we've heard, the variety in the plots and the approach. Do you think that the theme is much the same, though? The idea of resurrection, renewal, spread, growth. Do you think that has been what people have grasped on to as it when we're thinking about mushrooms?
That's a really good question. I know that there were a few tropes that we saw pop up, if you'll excuse the pun. For instance, like I mentioned, talking to Jim, there were many stories that dealt with grief, with this deep grief, and the mushrooms played, or the spores played some part, whether you were growing a new loved one or somebody was growing one for you. And there was a wonderful story by one of our authors that used body modification as with mushrooms and fungus as this metaphor for overcoming grief. And so I do think that renewal and transformation plays a large part in it. But then we also had some really wonderful revenge stories, like TEEL's story. And then we also had stories like Victoria Nations, where there was this metaphor of, not just a metaphor, but like a literal connection. And this was a connection that just transcended any sort of ideas or stereotypes that people might have about partnerships and connections like that. And just the way that she used the fungus as that was very creative, was just all of the stories in this book were so creative and amazing. But yes, we do seem to come back to these themes of loss and regret and grief, and then renewal and creation.
And also loneliness and being separated and apart and merging with something or coming together with something, just the way
I don't think of mushrooms as decay or dying. I think of mushrooms as actually the old phrase that life always finds a way. I think of mushrooms as a positive thing. I mean, I know that sounds like it was a revenge story, but here was a woman who was foraging for her children. That's actually how I viewed the story. This was someone who was going out and, I mean, sort of cleaning our gutters to feed her kids. So I don't think of mushrooms. I don't think of decay when I think of mushrooms. I think of, oh my gosh, life does come from things, and it's really strong.
Well, I thought it was funny that both Rick's mom kit and my corpse things sprouted on a Tuesday morning.
Could have been a Monday, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Me and Lynn, it's Tuesday.
And Lynn has put a chair in the comments with us, but I also want to share to everyone that her microphone has gone funny, so she can't answer back. So I'm so sorry, Lynn. We love talking with you. So that's cool. But what I'd love to do also, I just want to show the back cover for a second here. This is really tiny and you can't see this very much. However, Lynn did this gorgeous job. She put some mushrooms here in the bottom and really creepy mushrooms on the sides. And if you're able to look at this, on online or Amazon or the,
Bookshop.org. Yep.
Yeah, the authors here are some of the ones whom we invited into the anthology, and they were great. And we invited a bunch of great folks. Just about everybody said yes, which is great. And then we did an open call, and we got so many amazing stories. What were we going to do? So we have like 31 stories and 5 poems from invited poets in here. And oh my gosh, it's amazing. And then we did something really fun and insane. We invited Clay Chapman to do our foreword, and he what? you know, if nothing else, open it up and look at Lee at his introduction to this whole thing in his forward. It's so much fun. It's so much cool. So listen, we're almost out of time, but I would like to know, what does everybody have coming up? Anything you're working on that we're going to see soon? Lee, we know we have your foxes out there, which are in the running for some awards. What do you have
Coming?
Yes.
Yeah, this year is the year of judging, unfortunately. So I'm working really hard on reading a squillion books a day for World Fantasy Awards at the moment, and I'm also judging the Third Culture Film Festival here in New Zealand in the next couple of weeks, and the New Zealand Poetry Society International Poetry Competition that opens in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, I'm just inundated with amazing reading at the moment. I'm hoping it's going to inspire me to do some work myself, maybe not. But have This Way Lies Madness with Dave Jeffrey coming out in September of this year. So I've delivered that manuscript and we're just waiting on the last proofing. Very excited about that. It's 1,415 entries to that. And oh my gosh, we had to turn down so many amazing stories. I died a little every time. We had to say no. But, you know, we've got something like this, it was just so difficult. But really excited about that, and I'm hoping to get to the UK for the launch of that one. So
cool.
yeah, really exciting year of reading mostly planned this year.
Well, we were saying we got so many submissions for Dark Spores. You got 10 times as many. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you got through.
I was delighted, actually. It's always nice when you see a great response like that, and when you're spoiled for choice, you know, it's just what a privilege as an editor to be spoiled for choice. So
yes. Clearly, it resonated with people. Yeah. Rick, how about you? Do you have something coming up that we should look out for?
Oh, I'm still I'm beating the drum still for Skull Slime Tentacle Witch War. Up there it is. You know, that's my novel that came out in this past summer. So I'm still shilling for that. Working on something new that won't see the light of day for quite some time, but it's different. It's a little bit sword and sorcery flavored. So but still very much I can't help myself. There's all kinds of fungal references going on there, so.
Well, Skull Slime is such a wonderfully creepy and bizarro book that I had to get the T-shirt, and I wore it when we went foraging, everybody. So yeah, it seemed appropriate. Yeah. Teal, how about you? What's current with you, or what's coming up, or what do you got?
I just had Battle for Stormrest, the second book in my epic fantasy series, come out from Airship 27, and I turned in the second book in my Paradise Investigation series. The first book, Not Born of Woman, is up for a couple of awards.
Yes,
it was a finalist for the Pulp Factory, but and it's somewhere in the bottom of the pile for World Fantasy. I have, I don't know, I just sold a short story called Do Anthropoids Dream of Electric Chimps? I've got a bunch of other stuff coming out this year, but that's the big, and just sold a short story to House of Long Shadows, which is a gothic horror magazine that just started.
Cool.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, so a little bit of everything everywhere. All at once.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I can share Lynn's comments, which is, I'm so glad you put them in the chat. Lynn says, I'll be at GenreCon. Oh, wait, I can put this right up here. Oops. No, thanks, Jim. Sorry.
Sorry. No.
Lynn says, I'll be at GenreCon in Brisbane, Australia, March 1st. And then I'll be presenting at Lauren Elise Daniels' Brisbane Writers Workshop on March 9th. Oh, I'm so jealous you get to go to that. Cool. My first international literary events. Yay! That's terrific. Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing.
She's also just come back from a 12-day writing retreat, art retreat at the beach, and she's been totally inspired and come back with lots of work done and new ideas for commissions and things. So yeah, so she's buzzing. So she's buzzing with new art coming. So yeah, look out for that.
Oh, terrific.
Well,
Terrific.
get some gnat spray so she doesn't buzz too much.
Yeah. Jim, how about you? What are you working on? What's coming up? Anything you can share at this point?
Yeah, well, I have a novella called Necropolitan that has been published in a collection of 4 novellas in a book called Zombie Horde. And it's supposed to be good old-fashioned zombie fun, and mine is about a group of necromancers who turn necromancy coming up again. I just get on a kick with speaking with the dead, but group of necromancers who turn movie producers to create a movie that can actually turn people into zombies, and all sorts of fun ensues. And fun. Just finished and turned in another novella about my favorite cryptid / paranormal entity, which I can't really announce yet. It'll be out later this year, and I had a lot of fun working on that. And other stuff, yeah, lots of stuff cooking, but nothing that's ready for prime time, as the saying goes.
Yeah, that's cool. And Rachel, what you have a few things on your plate that have nothing to do with writing.
Yes. Well, my favorite thing is that we get a chance to do some publicity for Dark Spores. I believe that we have some events upcoming. In March, we'll be at Troubadour Books in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they've invited us to do a reading event there. So if you follow us on Facebook, I'll be putting more information into the group. So if you're in the area, please come visit us. I believe it's the last weekend in March. But like I said, we'll go through and we'll get the information and put it into the Facebook group. And then we have a couple of planned publications that have been contracted and now need to be edited. So I'll be disappearing into the editing cave as well to get those ready to go.
Yes. Good luck. And other events we have upcoming on March 8th, which is the second Saturday in the month. A number of us will be up at Stanza Books in Beacon,
New York.
Beacon, New York. Yep. Boom.
Where we will be reading from Dark Spores and talking.
Yes. Did I freeze? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yes.
My internet has been unstable, and I think it's just the internet, not me being unstable. But you never do know for sure. You never know. Yeah. So we'll be reading from Dark Spores up at Stanza Books in Beacon, New York, and we have a Barnes and Noble event set up in April with myself and TEEL Glenn as part of the monthly activity for Science Fiction Association of Bergen County. And I just want to give a shout out to those folks from SFABC who are listening tonight, because this was also one of the alternate events that people could attend. So thank you to them, and thank you for everybody for coming in and joining us. And then as far as stuff that I have coming up, one of the exciting things is that where is it? That and this anthology, Discontinued Death Ensues, that we have Lee Murray is one of my co-authors. I co-edited with Anna Taborska. So we have Lee Murray, Cindy O'Quinn, and Kyla Ward, as well as myself and Anna. And we have beautiful artwork in there from LYNNE HANSEN. It is a finalist in the Stoker Awards for Superior Achievement in an Anthology. It's just a long phrase to say, but we worked really long and hard on this together and formed the Sisterhood of Foreboding. We're the Sisters of Foreboding now. So I'm very appreciative and thankful for all the support we've gotten from that. And then the only other fun thing to share is what's coming up on Galactic Terrors. So our regular show is on the second Thursday of the month, and March 13th at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. That's right after the time change, so pay attention to that. We've got Stephen Van Patten, Sam Reblain, and actually it's Joe Kaplan is coming in. Anastasia switched. Yeah. So sorry. And we have
Joe
another
Kaplan, who is also one of our writers in Dark Spores.
Yes, that's quite true. Yes. And we have another special presentation of Galactic Terrors, one more, coming up on Monday, March 24th.
Joe Kaplan.
Thank you, Jim. Yay. Always on the top things. Yeah. And I'm sorry, things changed when he was in Italy. So I apologize for that. So Our special presentation on Monday, the 24th of March, is featuring the steampunk cosmic horror anthology, The Chaos Clock, Tales of Cosmic Aether, edited by Daniel Ackley McPhail from Eastbeck Books. And we've got some great readers coming on: Jody Lynn Nye, Bernie Mojes, Max Gold, Will McDermott, Carol Gyzander, James Chambers. Should be lots of fun. So that's, I may have missed some authors for that online. I'm not sure. That I thought, yeah, Teal. I'm not sure why your name didn't fall on the list, because I always, do fun things with you. Yeah. So anyway, I'm talking a lot, and I think maybe what we'll do is wrap it up, and let's all wave good night. Good night.
Yes,
you.
thank
Thanks so
you.
much for
Thanks for
joining us,
coming.
everyone.
Thanks for coming in, everyone. Appreciate.